Yet, the scandal of the incarnation is that God became a human, not by being beamed down from on high, but by being born in the usual way, clinging as a bundle of cells to the blood-rich inner wall of Mary's womb, floating in the amniotic bubble inside Mary's uterus, that astonishingly strong and expansible muscle making room within her body, her hospitable body, for God the Son to develop limbs, heart, brain, fingernails, earlobes, eyelashes. The scandal of the incarnation is that a woman, we might even be tempted to refer to Mary as a girl, she was so young, was in labor with God. A girl was in labor with God. She groaned and sweated and arched her back, crying out for her deliverance and finally delivering God. God's head pressing on her cervix, emerging from her vagina, perhaps tearing her flesh a little. God the Son, her Son, covered in vernix and blood, the infant God's first breath, the close air of crowded quarters, the iron and animal and tart and fecal smell of a birthing suite. God the Son, her Son, pressed to her bare breast, baby lips parted, tongue searching and seeking, the two of them still connected by the umbilicus. God's placenta detaching, no longer connected, as Mary's womb involuted, the two of them separating, then connecting again as God the Son, her Son, drank deeply from his mother. Drink, my beloved. This is my body, broken for you. I do not, of course, presume to know how it all was, but if the incarnation is real, then it began as all human life begins, emerging, as Augustine so indelicately put it, from between feces and urine. It began with Mary's bloated and tender breasts, with her swelling body and an aching back, with her exhaustion and hunger and thirst. It began when her contractions stopped being exciting, an intimation that the moment of birth was closer now than when she first consented, and began to be grueling when she cried out, my God, have you forsaken me?" But it began truly when she consented and not before, for Mary is no passive vessel, no mere container for the divine. She is an active co-creator with God. As a Protestant, I grew up knowing that I was not supposed to venerate Mary because that's what the Catholics did. Secretly, I wanted to as well, not because I thought I needed an intercessor between Jesus and myself, but because she was a girl, a woman like me. I do not pray to Mary, but I accord her honor in my prayer. When in the liturgy we confess our salvation by Jesus' wounds and our healing by Jesus' blood, I acknowledge her body and blood too. I look at her image for comfort and in adoration. For not to wonder at Mary is, I believe, not to wonder at the incarnation itself. Pre-modern conceptions of reproduction, difficult as it is to believe, didn't always imagine women's bodies as having an integral role. Instead, in ancient Near Eastern accounts, the man's seed is deposited into the woman's soil. She does not contribute to the formation of the seed, to its essence. It was thought to contain all that it needed to become what it is to become. She merely furnishes a place for it to grow. For millennia, people believed that each baby grew from a homunculus, a microscopic but complete human being, deposited by the father in the mother's womb. Lacking the insight that women do, in fact, contribute more than just a toasty hideout for a fully formed but infinitesimal human, people have been inclined, and sometimes are inclined, to regard women as passive fetus containers, as incubators. I have heard the Annunciation, when Gabriel tells Mary of the imminent incarnation, that she has been chosen by God to bear God. I have heard it described as a form of divine rape, akin to the sorts of obscenities perpetrated upon human women by masculine members of the Greek and Roman pantheons. But reading the Annunciation as if it were Zeus's rape of Leda fails to take into account the story's most indispensable and obvious details, namely, that Mary delights in the role that she is offered and accepts it. She gives her consent. Let it be with me according to your word. Let it be. Obedience is not a virtue unless there exists the genuine possibility of not obeying. The Mary of the Gospels is above all a paradigm of the choice of all women, writes Tikva Frymer-Kensky. Pregnancy always involves choice, and the choice is not always easy. Frymer-Kensky assumes that women always have the choice of abortion. Mary consents to stretch marks and sagging breasts. Mary consents to endure the discomfort of pregnancy and the agony of birth. Mary consents to shoulder the risk of hemorrhaging with no hope of a transfusion, of succumbing to a puerperal sepsis in a world that knows nothing of germs, much less of antibiotics. For the joy set before her, anchored in hope, in God's promise to deliver, Mary consents. She risks. She wades through the waters. God troubles them. She comes through the other side.